How did you sleep Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I want to know. I really do. Because I'm telling you, once you start talking to someone about your sleep, it becomes a real thing. I guess, I mean, myself included, the best way not to address something is to kind of hide from it or act like it's not there uh, or I mean, you could act like it's there, but just don't tell anybody. You can keep pulling it off as long as you don't tell anybody, right? It doesn't matter. So I want to know how you're sleeping. If you're sleeping well, I want to know. If you're sleeping poorly, I want to know. So anyway, um, weekend was good. The football team, my football team, um, the quarterback is now suspect, very suspect, which sucks because the quarterback is the guy, and the worry now is that the guy is not the guy. So, but besides that, the weekend was great. Everyone's doing good at the King household. I'm excited about this week's training. I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm trying to put this together in a much more cohesive package, and been working on that. And so this week has got a pretty kind of tight kind of framework to it. So we're on 56. So out of 114, we're on 56. So we got 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60 this week. And so, like I mentioned last week, this is all about the act of interacting with kind of conflict. This is kind of a combatives. So the notion of the art of peace is not that life becomes this easy, perfect experience with no conflict. To the contrary, it might involve more conflict. But what's happened is that the way you have a conflict is less likely to result in additional conflict related to that conflict. That's the main point. The main point is it's kind of like with sleeping. You find the things that are kind of causing you problems. You work with those things, and you work with them in such a way that they don't exacerbate the problems or add new problems that you had to deal with. So it's a meeting of where things are, an interaction with those things, and not just a solving those things, but a fostering of goodwill around those things. And, like in past stanzas, let's see, where is it? Yeah, 51, 52, and 54. No, you defeat the harbor within you defeat what's in with what's in yourself. And let's see. Oh yeah, you control aggression without inflicting injury. This is all the past week. So this is the past week is the outcome. The past week is the outcome. You're dealing with your own mind in the conflict. You're trying to interact with this in a joyful way. There's to win joyfully is a very powerful thing. It's just basically there's just and as you can see, I've only gone through the Art of Peace 3 times, so I'm still learning the pieces. But the way you kind of visualize the battle beforehand, the conflict beforehand, is you recognize that the battle takes place within yourself. Once you recognize that the battle is taking place within yourself and you learn how to attack that and you learn how to be with that battle, you then see that, okay, if I can be calm and cool inside and not attack myself inside, then I can do the same thing outside. I can interact with whatever conflict shows up, recognize my conflict within, and then deploy technique to attack the armor. So what I'm saying this week and what I'm going to describe this week is all about what I mean when I say attack the armor, don't attack the person. So the armor. What is the armor? A person's armor is made up of three parts: the mental armor, physical armor, and spiritual armor. Mental armor is identity armor. So mental armor is the type of armor that is fostered through kind of politics, people's identities, your identity, a masculine identity, or a sensitive female identity, or a powerful white identity, or a powerful black identity. That's one way to conceive of identity or conceive of mental armor. Another way to think about mental armor is that it's related to the past and it has expectations about the future. So I'm going to go into how to attack these specifically this week, but the mental armor, the qualities of the mental armor that can be attacked, or excuse me, I'll go into that later, but the mental armor deals with time, it deals with identity, it deals with story, it deals with the things that are related to the mind. And so the mind has particular capabilities. And so what you can do is you can understand those capabilities in the context of time, identity, story, past and future. It's all imaginary, right? Now, my identity is not imaginary. Well, in a sense it is. In a sense, your identity is imaginary because your identity is based off the structures of society, and the structures of society have a time element and an identity element. You have a name, you have a last name, you have an address, you have a social security number. That's identity. It's not set in stone in the universe. It's set in stone where you are, and it's set in stone with terms of culture. It's hard to interact with someone who doesn't have an identity to interact with. So that's the mental armor. So you can attack that, and I'll tell you how to attack that later in the week. The physical armor is the armor of the present moment. So physically, everything we have physically is taking place in the present moment. So when you interact with your body, you're not interacting with your body as it was or interacting with your body as it will be. You're interacting with your body as it is in the present moment. And how you're interacting with it in the present moment will play a role in how it will be, but it's the present moment that the body exists in. So when you're attacking the body, the thing to be thinking about with the body is that it's taking place in the present moment. It's a very important distinction, because some of the things that I like to do when I attack, right? I attack the armor of a person. When I attack the armor of the person, I'll shift. So I'll start off with an attack on the identity or the mental armor, and then I'll switch to the physical armor. And so that, say they'll come with a very physical type of presentation, I'll switch to mental, and then I'll switch back to physical, and I'll go back and forth. Because again, the attack should not take place on the person. The attack should take place on the armor. I'll go more into what that means about why not the person over time. But ultimately, what you don't want to do is you don't want to give the person a dark heart towards you. You don't want the person to hate you. Now, you can't control if that person hates you or not, but you can control your attack. And if your attack is the person, so if you attack the person themselves, then you really foster the need to have to do it again, the need to have to worry about it, the need to, someone's ill will moves towards you. That's a significant thing, because the last piece of the armor is the spiritual armor. And the spiritual armor is essentially doubt. You can attack the person's doubt. And again, you don't want to attack the person. You want to attack their armor. So spiritual armor is the armor that gives you the sense of, like, I'm connected to the divine, or I'm connected to the universe. It's kind of a religious armor or a divine armor. And the way you attack that armor is by fostering doubt in the armor's validity. And so the way you attack like a religious armor is by cultivating a sense of goodwill. And this is kind of goes back to the last stanza, always participate in the art of peace in a vibrant and joyful manner. Because if you are fostering doubt in someone who, say, is very kind of devout in their understandings of a particular religion, and if you can, in a joyful manner, insert how that particular religion, now you have to have some awareness of that religion to begin with, but if you can articulate how that religion at its essence is not what that person's saying, and argue that at the essence it is, you're not attacking that person. You're not saying you're dumb for believing this stuff, your religion's wrong, or anything like that. What you're doing is you're attacking the armor that that person uses, and what happens is the armor starts to break down. Is the person has a hard time feeding their counterattacks. And if you can get to the point where the person's no longer feeding their counterattack, which typically happens when the person's no longer feels anger or fired up, and they also kind of starts to doubt their own armor, because typically what happens is people throw up their armor and they fight with their armor, and then once they find the armor that kind of fits, then they kind of press home the attack. Because if you've got solid armor and you're pushing in, you don't have to worry about getting hit yourself. And when that happens, you're free to move. Now, the problem that people have with this style is that when you attack their armor and they realize that their armor cannot fortify themselves, they lose two things. One, they lose the energy to fight. It just goes away, because typically people fight with other people, and that's heart-based, and so it's very energetic, and so you start to vibe the other person, you become the attack, and so it's like, you almost can't escape it. But if you attack the armor, and the person who keeps putting their armor up, if you put your armor up and you bam hit that armor and they have to drop that armor down because it's just not effective, then before you know it, they've armored down. And once you've created an environment where someone has armored down, right? It's just their heart out there. Then because you haven't attacked the person, you can be like, hey, let's go chill. Like, let's go hang out. Like, that's the best part. You can beat the shit out of their armor, and they're sitting behind their armor, right? The person is sitting behind their armor, and they're just like, you don't say anything to them. You don't attack them. You're just attacking their armor. Over and over again, you attack the armor. Over and over and over again. Attacking armor, attacking armor, attacking armor. And then they start to drop their armor because they can't use it. It's no longer useful. And they're not necessarily threatened by you. Personally, they're not threatened by you. The individual isn't threatened by you as much as the armor that they're using to deflect what you're saying. They start to see it doesn't have as much power. And once someone is kind of laid bare in front of you, and you have not insulted them, it's pretty easy to kind of just chill it all out. It's pretty easy to kind of chill it all out and just kind of, all right, well, appreciate the conversation. Hope you have a good rest of your day. This has happened to me countless times on social media. This is the best place to practice the art of peace is social media. And with language, and written language, it's very easy to see the difference between someone who is attacking armor and someone who is attacking person. It's really fun. It really is fun. But you've just got to stay. You've got to stay very attuned to that present moment. You've got to feel what type of armor they're coming at you with, and you've got to be quick. You've got to be able to move and quickly adapt. And I remember being at a party back before COVID, and this guy and I were really getting into it intellectually. And I started hammering him on his mental armor. And I wasn't hammering him. I just said, yeah, argument, that armor, armor. And then I was having no effect. I wasn't getting through that armor. He just kept putting the armor up, kept putting the armor up, kept putting the armor up. So I shifted to his physical. And the way you shift to physical, I'll go into this later, but I shifted to physical and it threw him. He was armored up mentally, armored up. I shift physical and he just, the armor wasn't as strong. And so once I recognized that the physical armor wasn't as strong, I was able to move in. And when that happened, I was able to kind of mostly just render him inert. And what it means to render someone inert is like blowing out a candle. They're just not fired up. So there's not anything going on. Ideally there's not animosity, and you have to be careful, because once you beat back someone's armor, once you attack their armor and they armor down, you have to be careful with them, because they're in a vulnerable place. And so it's good to put goodwill into that place, because you haven't put any bad will into the person. You've attacked their armor, but you haven't put any bad will into the person. So what you're doing then is you've got to, once you get to that place, the piece that you want to leave the conversation with is goodwill. So I appreciate this opportunity to chat with you. I really appreciate the positions you took, and this was a battle back and forth. Thanks for the opportunity. So there's a bit of goodwill in there. That's the piece that they remember afterwards, is the goodwill. And they can doubt their armor all you want, and you don't care, because you would just attack their armor, and the armor is just a projection. So attacking the armor instead of the person is the absolute way to go. If you don't want to deal with stuff later on, why would you want to fight why would you want to fight the same fight again? Why would you want to cause people to hate you? The stuff that you have to keep dealing with when that's the case is so exhausting. There's no way you are going to thrive as a civilian if you just keep making enemies. But the way to stop making enemies, and the way to still be powerful, is to attack the armor, not the person. We'll go into more of that later this week. Let's train. Okay, we're about to go into training. So this is the part where you have to recognize what gives you comfort. Is what gives you comfort something that comes from the inside, right? So it's body-based. For me to get comfortable, I got to do X, Y, and Z. I got to get my body squared away. I got to get, this squared away. Or is it external, right? Is it something that's outside? I need to be away from a door, or I need to have my back to a wall, or I need to be in low light. What are the things that constantly come up for you? And do you know them that cue you to comfort? So that's get yourself set. Now about to go into bell 1. Senses, situational awareness, sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Your attention here is on your senses. So what can you see light and shadow wise, with straight lines, shapes, curiosity? What types of visual things pique your curiosity? And once you've established that, maybe notice something that you haven't noticed before, feel free to close your eyes and move into sound. What do you hear, and where do you hear it? So for the warrior, the notion of situational awareness is having a indication of what's going on around you. And the same thing applies here. First bell is all about situational awareness, bringing the mind into the present moment. And kind of spiritually, it's all about safety. Do you trust this moment? Do you feel comfortable and confident that this moment is what you perceive it to be? That's bell 1. You can look at smell, taste, touch. These are all things that facilitate your ability to ascertain how safe your direct environment is. Once you've established that, we move into bell 2, which is moving into the body. So now we go into the body, and what we do by that is we go into all the chunks of the body that offer feedback. The whole body offers feedback, but in the context of the practice, you go in first to where the body is at rest. So that's your ground. So what's underneath you? So I've got, the cushion underneath me. I've got, the concrete all the way down to the dirt. That's my ground. So I notice that. Notice it's stable. It's pretty obvious, right? You're not going to be seated on something that's unstable. But again, what you're training here is attention. So it's not so much what's showing up as it is putting your attention on. So turning your attention on is the key thing. So now you put your attention on your pelvic region. So the pelvic region includes the sit bones, the tailbones, the genitals, the pubic bone, the the digestive organs, the intestines. That's all in the region of the pelvis. So when you put your attention there, you want to become aware. So when you put your attention on something, then you can become aware. You can become aware of what's going on down there in terms of comfort. Now, there also might be, muscular sensation. There may even be an emotional quality to the space. You want to just notice those things and find as much comfort as is available to you. And that might mean making a shift. It might mean settling left or right or shifting forward or shifting back. It might mean that everything's fine now as it is. But again, the key is to put your attention there and then let your awareness determine how everything is in that region. From there, we go up the third spot. So you're going from ground to pelvis to now core. So again, you're in the core area. You put your attention on the core area. And just another analogy that popped into my head. If you're a marksman and you're, long shot marksman, right? And so you've got your, spotter, or you're interacting with some kind of magnification, and you're able to kind of look at a region of your target. So you see what's around it, you see what's near it, you see what's behind it, and then you focus in on the target itself. And what you're doing is you're putting your attention in this one spot. And then from your attention being on this one spot or this one thing, you're able to develop an awareness of what's kind of going on in that region. And so you're putting your attention now on your core. For me, the core always holds a lot. And the reason why that's the case is because I've got a history of, really putting a lot of anger and doubt and negativity into my core. My, stomach's too fat. I don't have a six-pack. All that stuff, the story of it, right? So that's armor. Okay, and so what you want to do is you just want to notice how that may show up. For me, it shows up with tense muscles. So I'm typically clenching the muscles of my core in some form or fashion, throughout the day. So I always have to come back to that region and say, oh, there it is. There's that tension. I'll let that go. So let tension out, then move your attention up. Okay, put your awareness on your heart space. Now, heart space just has a lot going on. So you've got the heart, you've got the shoulder blades, you've got the ribs, you've got the lungs, you've got the collarbones. Of all the joints, this region, the shoulder regions, the heart space region, they can do the most movement, they can move in the most directions. And of course, the heart space houses your most kind of volatile, life-giving kind of stuff. It's the lungs. They transfer oxygen, or they transfer the air into oxygen. Your heart sends it through the body. So you're no longer in the digestive stuff. You're not in the processing of things. You're in the creation of things. So that's all heart space. For me, I always move my shoulder blades here. Always move my shoulder blades here. That gives me awareness of shoulder blades and collarbones. So always kind of tapping in there. Move up again, throat space, jaw. Move up again to the top of the head. So what you're looking for by the time you get through the body alignment, bell 2, is alert and relaxed. So you're upright, body's upright and relaxed. There's no muscle tension here. It's totally unnecessary. You don't need any muscle tension to sit up. You just want to have that kind of tautness, so nothing's pulling, but nothing's loose, right? So there's a tautness, that's alertness, and then relaxed. So another way to support the relaxed kind of feel is to have all your body be kind of as much at rest as you can make it. So you can imagine kind of the muscles all around your bones just softening. And you say, okay, muscles, just kind of settle. Settle, settle, settle. I have a crossbow now, and if I cock the crossbow, that arrow's ready to fire. That bow is ready to fire, and it's on. Okay? Imagine just leaving it there. Now the instructions say I can leave it there for 12 hours. So I imagine I can leave it there for a long time. But it's taut. I mean, it's not just taut, it is tight. It is ready to fire. So you don't want to hold your body at ready to fire if there's no need for you to fire. And part of what trauma and PTSD does is it can facilitate an environment, even though it's not a real environment, it can facilitate an environment where you think that you're going to have to fire. But you don't. You don't have to fire. It's just that you've not interacted with all the pieces of the trauma that are physical. You don't know all the armor you carry yet. So one of the things one of the reasons to value Bell 2 is to recognize where you're carrying armor and to armor down. You don't need that stuff. You don't need it. You don't need to be armored up at any given moment while you're practicing mindfulness meditation. There's no need. And if you are experiencing it, it's because your mind is run amok. So Bell 2 is all about kind of connecting to that reality. Now, you've got training that's in the way, armor that's in the way, but that's okay. We'll teach you how to armor down, but you got to do the practice. Let's go to third bell. So now we're going to interact with all this stuff. So third bell's breath. So you recognize some armor, okay? Maybe you recognize some tension somewhere in the body. So you want to interact with it. Well, how do you do that? Well, you do it with your breathing. Your breathing is constantly interacting with your behavior and the world around you, and it's constantly interacting with how you're perceiving the world around you. So your breath is the barometer of interaction. So just notice your breath as it is at its baseline. Just notice that. Now let's max it out. And release. Now think sides, feel sides, breathe sides. Think front, back, feel front, back, breathe front, back. Think up, down, feel up, down, breathe up, down. Put the three together. Let's change the speed. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. So breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold at the top for 7 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds. Inhale 4. Hold 7. Exhale 8. Once more on your own. And just sit for a minute. Now, the same way your body can react and your breathing will change, you can change your breathing and your body will change. So this is a skill that you want to be good at. You want to be good at. Your breath reacts to every change outside, and your whole body, your whole breathing can change if you're triggered. Now, what's cool is that you can counter trigger. You can use your breath to create an internal environment on the front end. So instead of having something happen and then your whole body changes, you can practice and your whole body changes. So it becomes much more under your influence as opposed to being out of your control. All right, fourth bell. So fourth bell is what I mean when I say you leave the attack with goodwill. You leave the attack with goodwill. So as you saw, we brought the mind into the present moment. That's bell 1. That's comfort. That's kind of recognizing the situation. 2, we went into the body. That's recognizing what your body is kind of sharing, what language your body's giving off. 3 is an interaction, and then 4 is goodwill, right? So if you go through the experience of a situation that has conflict, you can kind of go through those steps. But here's where you want to leave. You want to leave with a sense of goodwill, and that's your practice of compassion and gratitude. You've got to be able to get through your armor and their armor in order to get to open-heartedness. Open-heartedness means that you don't leave an enemy. You leave with a sense of I've seen you, you've seen me. We acknowledge each other, and there's no threat there. There's nothing to worry about. So you got to practice that. Someone could have. So you may be attacking someone's armor, but they're attacking you. So you're saying stuff like, look, the argument that you're making doesn't stand up. The argument that you're making is X, Y, and Z. And they're saying, yeah, well, you're a piece of shit. You can go fuck yourself, right? You're an asshole. I can't stand you. So they may be attacking you. You're attacking their armor, right? And so by the end, they've attacked you. They've said this about you. They said that about you. But at the end, you're still able to say, look, the energy that we came with this conversation was actually, quite exhilarating. Like countless times I felt my body just, whoa, like you were landing some heavy comments. And, I don't take any of them personally. I totally see where you're coming from in a lot of things. And bottom line is I am, ask my wife, I'm more of an asshole than not. So, it's all good. This was for real, and I hope I haven't done anything to give you the impression that I'm angry or that I, don't like you or anything like that. And so, I just, like to leave good terms and wish you the best. And, if you can come to that mind, body, and spirit, and you put that out there, that's the most powerful thing in the world. The most powerful thing in the world. So gratitude, get to compassion, win the battle, right? So don't fight the person. Attack their armor. Attack their armor. All right, it's gonna be a good week. I like this stuff. I like one of my most favorite things is having these kinds of battles, and the better I get at them, oh, man, the better I get at them, the more I enjoy having them, because it's interesting. The warrior culture is often kind of, there's an element of extreme to warrior culture where the extremes are needed to feel stuff. And part of the reason the extremes are needed to feel stuff is because there's so much armor. And so with a lot of armor, you have to have quite a hit. There needs to be quite an extreme in order to feel anything if you carry armor all day long. And so, the intense environments really help kind of armor down. Now, the problem with intense environments is it's unsustainable. You can't sustain intense environments. And if you can only feel anything during intense environments, that's a problem. But the point I'm trying to make is that intense environments are the types of environments that warriors are kind of trained for. So that's why part of the reason why I like these, and I like these conversations, I like these environments, is because there's an element of intensity to it. So anyway, let's end there. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is attacking physical armor. So tomorrow I'll talk to you a little bit about attacking physical armor. I'll tell you some stories about how I've been successful there. And then, yeah. So I'll see you tomorrow. Samantha, if you were watching and don't understand, sorry about that. I've been trying to find out. Samantha, let me write that down. I've been trying to find out how to get to these chats, and I haven't been able to do it very effectively. So let me write your name down, and I'll follow up with you. Everybody, we're done, so feel free to get off. But I'm trying to figure out how to handle these chats, and I haven't figured it out. All right.